The sun cast long, drawn-out shadows over Des Moines as Detective Grace Hanover observed the city from her office in the municipal building. Framed by stacks of old case files and weathered police reports, she watched as tendrils of warm light danced on the sprawling cityscape, muted and diffused by the stained glass of her window. Though her eyes perceived the panorama of urban sprawl, her mind was consumed by the memories of battles fought, both personal and professional. Her hands played absent-mindedly with an old ticket stub, a memento from a happier time, before the tendrils of a merciless eating disorder had wrapped her life in its haunting embrace. She had always been a custodian of fairness, a steward of sincerity, with a relentless drive to make the world a better place. And yet her world had once spiraled into a dark abyss of self-destruction. She blinked, casting away the ghosts of the past and focusing on the city that depended on her. A knock on her door stirred her from her contemplation. She turned towards the sound, her green eyes flicking to the silhouette of the city's mayor, his form outlined in the ghostly pallor of fluorescent hallway lighting. "Detective Hanover," he began, his voice gravelly, "there's something you need to see." An hour later found her at the outskirts of the city, in the throbbing heart of a junkyard. Heaps of forsaken vehicles and fragments of antiquated machinery formed an orchestra of desolation, accompanied by the hollow moaning of the wind through their skeletal remains. The junkyard, normally a monument to human discard, had been transformed into an excavation site. Her boots crunched on the gravel, echoing off the stark metal cliffs of refuse as she descended into the gaping maw of a recently revealed underground ruin. The descent was chilling, the torchlight barely illuminating the curving walls adorned with intricate etchings and symbols of an unknown tongue. The air hung heavy, saturated with the age-old secrecy buried deep within the earth. She exchanged uneasy glances with the archaeologists, their faces glowing in the flickering torchlight, their excitement a stark contradiction to her building unease. Dr. Larson, the lead archaeologist, a man with a scruffy beard and glasses perpetually on the brink of falling off his nose, began describing the ruins. His words, a blend of scholarly jargon and childlike enthusiasm, painted a picture of an ancient civilization buried beneath the city, a civilization both unsettlingly alien and uncomfortably familiar. As she listened to Larson's narrative, the patterns on the walls seemed to pulse and swirl like an ever-evolving cosmic map. An unease gripped her, not unlike the phantom fingers of her past disorder, clawing at the edges of her mind. It whispered of strange rituals, dark cults, and secrets that human minds were not meant to comprehend. She forced herself to focus on Larson's words, her resolve hardened by her dedication to her city and its people. Yet even as her mind grappled with the magnitude of their discovery, she could not shake off the feeling of dread coiling in her stomach. The torchlight trembled, carving a wavering sphere of influence in the dominion of the dark. Grace moved through the subterranean gloom, her boots unsettling millennia-old dust. She passed shadow-drenched alcoves and gaping, blackened doorways that led to realms unknown, their secrets swallowed by the bowels of the earth. The ancient stonework bore the scars of an unfathomable age. Abstract symbols ran in tangled veins along the walls, imbued with an eerie semblance of life under the fluttering torchlight. Their intricate patterns seemed to dance, the stone breathing cryptic tales into the silence. Larson, in his crumpled field suit and spectacles, took the lead, his scholarly excitement tempered by an evident wariness. His voice echoed through the labyrinthine chambers, a persistent hum against the oppressive silence. She followed, her gaze locked onto the enigmatic etchings. The eerie alienness of the symbols and their strange arrangement clawed at the edges of her consciousness, the discomfort a chilling echo of her past trauma. Yet as before, she persevered, treading deeper into the murky unknown. As they explored further, a dark revelation began to materialize. They found evidence of ritualistic practices within the heart of the labyrinth, crude stone altars stained with a residue that made Larson pale and stutter. His theories grew darker. His speculations echoed the whispers that danced around the edges of her mind. A cult, perhaps, with influence reaching into the very core of this ancient civilization, he surmised, his voice a wisp of dread in the crypt-like stillness. The implication hung in the air, an unsettling puzzle piece that clicked into the dread creeping into Grace's mind. The notion of an ancient cult seeping its dark influence into her city set her nerves ablaze, a feeling that her battle with her eating disorder had honed into a painful familiarity. She struggled to keep her emotions in check, her resolve faltering under the weight of the grim discovery. But as before, her determination remained undimmed. She could not allow her city to fall victim to this ancient threat. Deep within the subterranean ruin, her gaze fell onto an enormous wall carving. It depicted grotesque, otherworldly figures, their forms a maddening swirl of inhuman shapes and limbs, their eyes a multitude of hollow voids that seemed to bore into her soul. She stepped back, the cosmic horror of it threatening to consume her sanity. As the shadows danced in the periphery of her vision, she could almost hear a haunting melody humming from the very stone, a song of cosmic madness that threatened to unravel reality. Days blurred into a relentless pursuit of understanding. Back in her office, Grace found herself surrounded by replicas of the ancient symbols, by photographs of the eerie stone carvings, in the weighty silence of her solitary vigil. The quiet was punctuated only by the intermittent click of her pen or the rustle of papers as she delved deeper into the enigma of the subterranean ruin. The rhythm of her investigation became a lifeline, a semblance of control in the encroaching tide of cosmic horror. Yet the specter of her past eating disorder whispered in the background, its echo intertwined with the dread blossoming in her heart. Each unraveling thread of the investigation, every lead tracked, reflected in her eyes, twin pools of resolve glinting in the dim office light. Larson's notes, filled with theories of ancient rituals and cosmic influences, lay spread across her desk. His words painted vivid pictures of time-forgotten cult practices, the implications echoing through the chambers of her mind. Each line she read, each symbol she studied, drew the veil of normalcy thinner, revealing the grotesque tapestry of her city's hidden past. As she traced the trail of the cult through the pages of history, seemingly innocuous names began to emerge in a sinister pattern. City officials, community leaders, local historians, all enmeshed in a web of dark conspiracy. The thread she followed wove a chilling narrative that shattered her perception of Des Moines, the cityscape outside her window transforming into a shadowy tableau of hidden terrors. The strain of her relentless pursuit started to manifest in her physical health. Her past trauma began to echo in her present, her battle with her eating disorder rekindling in the face of this existential dread. But even as her health faltered, her spirit refused to break. Her fierce dedication to her city and her people, her unwavering commitment to justice were the pillars on which she leaned, drawing strength from her past struggles. One evening, as the sun stained the cityscape with crimson hues, she found herself staring at a particular symbol, an interlocked spiral, its pattern mirroring the labyrinthine maze of the underground ruins. A chill crept up her spine as she realized its resemblance to the city layout. It was a chilling revelation, a haunting echo of the past casting its monstrous shadow over her city's present. The cityscape of Des Moines was a mosaic of quotidian life, its vibrant threads interweaving in a tapestry of the mundane. But Grace knew otherwise. Beneath the humdrum rhythm, beneath the innocuous veneer, lurked a horrifying secret, a monstrous shadow growing larger each day. In her office, the city's map lay spread out, the cult's symbols superimposed onto its streets and alleyways. Grace stared at the confluence of ancient horror and modern normalcy, her thoughts straddling the tenuous divide between sanity and madness. As the days passed, reality seemed to warp around the edges. Time flowed erratically, skipping and stalling like a scratch record. The familiar cityscape started to appear alien, the buildings and streets a grotesque parody of themselves. It was as if an unseen veil was gradually lifting, revealing a world hidden in plain sight, a world molded by the cult's ancient cosmic horror. She ventured into the city, the labyrinthine streets echoing the subterranean ruins. Conversations with the city's officials, historians, and even common citizens now took on a sinister undertone. The residents unknowingly performed the rituals of the ancient cult, their everyday actions a series of grotesque pantomimes dictated by the cosmic horror woven into the city's fabric. The changes were subtle at first, the distortions almost imperceptible. But slowly the city began to buckle under the eldritch influence. People moved in odd, disjointed ways, their eyes vacant, their voices a haunting echo. Shadows lengthened into disturbing forms, and buildings bent at impossible angles, their outlines a mockery of their former selves. Then came the manifestations, grotesque, monstrous entities that lurked in the corners of her vision. They were there one moment and gone the next, their presence an unwelcome distortion of her reality. Her past trauma seemed to echo in these visions, the physical manifestation of her psychological battles against her eating disorder. Despair threatened to consume her, her battle against the unknown overwhelming her senses. Yet she refused to succumb. She stood on the precipice, her resolve bolstered by the love for her city and its people. She had conquered her personal demons before. She would not yield to these cosmic horrors. Dawn broke over Des Moines, the morning light casting long shadows that twisted and danced on the city's distorted skyline. The ethereal quiet was a stark reminder of the twisted reality that now held the city in its eldritch grasp. Grace, standing on the precipice of the underground entrance, took a final glance at the city she was fighting to protect. Her descent into the ancient labyrinth was a journey into the maw of madness. The air felt heavier, the darkness more absolute, the silence more oppressive. Her torchlight flickered on the grotesque etchings, the eldritch symbols now pulsating with a dark, malignant life. She could hear the ancient heartbeat of the cult, a monstrous symphony woven into the very stones of the subterranean ruin. Her every step was echoed by the ghosts of her past battles. Her struggle with her eating disorder now mirrored her fight against the cosmic horror ensnaring her city. The similarities were uncanny, and in this recognition lay her strength. She had conquered her demons before. She would conquer them once again. Deep within the catacombs, she found the heart of the ancient cult. The stone chamber hummed with an otherworldly energy, its very air pulsating with the monstrous echo of a cosmic entity. In the center, an obsidian altar bathed in an unholy radiance, the epicenter of the cult's eldritch influence. Gathering her resolve, she moved towards the altar. Her hands trembled as she placed upon it an array of items, tools she had gathered from her past experiences, symbols of her triumphs over her personal demons. It was a gamble, a desperate ploy, but it was all she had. As she completed the counter ritual, the chamber around her shook, the stones trembling under the clash of cosmic forces. Her senses blurred, reality twisted and folded around her. She felt the echo of her own traumas, the distorted mirror of her past battles. But she held on, her resolve unbroken, her spirit unyielding. When the tremor subsided, she was alone in the stillness of the chamber. The ominous hum was gone, the oppressive energy dissipated. She staggered out of the labyrinth, her steps heavy but determined. Emerging onto the surface, she was greeted by a sight that left her breathless. Des Moines was as it once was, its distorted reality corrected, the haunting shadows banished. The ordinary rhythm of life was returning, the veil of normalcy slowly descending once again. Her battle against the cosmic horror had left its mark, but it had also rekindled her faith in her strength. She was forever changed, the quiet resilience of humanity evident in her weary smile. She had fought her personal demons and won. She had confronted cosmic horrors and survived. As she walked the familiar streets of Des Moines, she knew that no matter what darkness loomed ahead, she would face it, and she would prevail. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to our channel, where you can find more similar stories, and click on the bell icon to never miss one. There is plenty more cosmic horror to come from the Eldritch Tales Factory. Stay tuned, and until next time.